Tanki Online in 2011 was an insane time. Tanki was constantly adding new content like brand new turrets and holes, and the player base was growing at an insane rate, mainly because online browser games were just getting really popular in the 2010s. So many people were getting new laptops that could actually run browser games. This was also before the 2013 rebalance, so the game truly felt old at the time. I mean, you just look at gameplay from the pre-rebalance, and the graphics were honestly that 2010 vibe of browser games. But to be honest, that's I think what made it really special, was it just had that old, unique styled art to it that just made the game so different from all the other games at the time. Well, during this time, Tanki was also working on another project. This was Tanki Online 2.0. Now, a lot of players likely don't even know this project existed. That's primarily because of its failure, but honestly, you'd be surprised at how close the Tanki team got to almost releasing Tanki 2.0. Now, Tanki originally thought of the idea for Tanki Online 2.0 back in 2012, mainly because they wanted to create a much better looking and interactive game through a rework of like the friend system and graphics overall. Now, this version would also involve a new karma system with achievements and an overall rework of the game's social systems. So the development of Tanki 2.0 actually helped the main game a ton. The friend system originally designed for Tanki 2.0 was just brought to the main game. This was the same for the achievement system, which is still in the game today, but it's a bit outdated now. But back in the day when you went to the ratings page for Tanki Online, having those achievements was a nice little additional touch to the overall game. There were many ideas for Tanki 2.0 that were made, but were used for the Tanki X project a few years later, since these ideas didn't match the original Tanki 2.0 design. So the release date for Tanki 2 was actually set at one point for June 4th, 2011. Tanki had early beta testing in May, and were basically getting ready for the full release in 2011. The development team might have released Tanki 2.0 during the original release date in 2011, but the beta testing found a ton of bugs and performance issues. So the official release date was pushed back indefinitely while the Tanki team worked on various issues. You can actually see all the different art that Tanki made for the models, and it's important to remember Tanki was still in the pre-2013 era where every single turret only had the legacy version before 2013. So Tanki ended up using a lot of the designs for the turrets in Tanki 2.0 and just using them for the massive rebalance in 2013. You can see a lot of the art that was taken from the concepts for Tanki 2.0 and used in Tanki Online. A lot of the M2 and M3 designs looked more futuristic compared to the MO and M1 designs, and overall the progression of skins looked really neat for the game. Tanki would also use a lot of these futuristic designs and implement the unused designs in Tanki X. The development team was showing a lot of the updated look for Tanki 2.0 in comparison to the main game at the time, trying to build hype for the hopeful release of Tanki 2.0. On the screen right now, you can see the differences in current legacy versions of the tanks versus what they planned for Tanki 2.0 release tanks to look like. Tanki 2.0 had an entire garage modeled, which had much more detail than the Tanki Online garage at the time, and you can tell that Tanki was trying to go for a more grittier look at the beginning of the Tanki 2.0 development. Here you can also see the interface, which was similar to Tanki Online at the time, but had a decent amount of changes. Now, Tanki 2 had also created 4 more ranks: Marshal, Field Marshal, Commander, and Generalissimo. As you probably guessed, when the Tanki 2.0 project was shut down, the team just added these ranks to the main game. Another interesting aspect of Tanki 2.0 was the characters that were integrated into the story of the game. You had the character Laura, who was, quote, a legendary battle participant and currently trains women participants. She also treats male participants condescendingly, and when the show started, she had a relationship with the instructor, which occasionally shows when she speaks. So these characters in Tanki 2.0 were originally going to have speaking roles and kind of create a story around Tanki. The description of the Laura character honestly makes no sense, so I'm kind of glad they scrapped the whole character idea for Tanki, since there really isn't a story to begin with. Now, there were 2 other named characters called Felix and Max, with a 4th one being created but left unnamed. The Tanki team had also made 3 maps for Tanki 2.0 that were completed. There was a map named Arena, which looked exactly like the sandbox we have currently. There was another map called Crash, which was a uniquely made map for Tanki 2.0 and had a plane crash in the middle of the map. And then lastly, you had the Conquer map with a few new models and vehicles added. It's very surprising how close Tanki 2.0 got to being released, and likely would have been if the beta testing had gone well. On screen, you can see some of the models that were made for Tanki 2.0. Tanki 2.0 also had completely new remodeled supply boxes that honestly looked really nice and kept in line with the overall gritty tone the game had going for it. The speed boost design was also pretty darn neat and would have been nice to see in game. So the proposed launch of the game would start with both the main Tanki Online and Tanki 2.0 running side by side, with Tanki closing registrations for the original game and slowly pivoting all their effort into Tanki 2.0. Now, players would have been able to transfer items like crystals, ranks, and their statistics over to the new Tanki 2.0, although you would start off with nothing in the garage, but Tanki would compensate players with crystals equivalent to the value of their garage from the original Tanki Online. Now, funny enough, the premium currency for Tanki 2.0 was rubies, which was the premium currency added into current Tanki in 2024. In the end, the development of Tanki 2.0 was shut down for reasons we never really fully will know. The team had mentioned that Tanki 2.0 was just too different from the main game they loved. There was also a problem with the game being way too demanding for computers back in 2011, when the average person really only had an entry-level laptop at the time, so that would have led to the player base dropping drastically. Also, maybe the Tanki Online game was doing so well at the time and they didn't want to ruin that momentum they were gaining, or they could have just not liked the end result of Tanki 2.0. There's probably like 100 other reasons Tanki decided to end the development of Tanki 2.0 and focus on the main game. Now, honestly, I'm surprised. The gritty style of Tanki 2.0 never translated into Tanki Online, even with many of the art concepts being brought to the main game. I mean, if you just look at all the concept pictures of Tanki 2.0, it has an overall like grittier and more battlefield style to the game, rather than current Tanki Online or Tanki Online at the time, which definitely looked gritty, but it still had that kind of bright, saturated look to the game. Overall, Tanki 2.0 was a very interesting part of Tanki's history, and who knows what Tanki Online would look like today if the Tanki team went through with Tanki 2.0 and released it instead of continuing to work on Tanki Online. I can honestly understand why Tanki decided to drop making this game back in 2012. Maybe if Tanki Online wasn't growing nearly as fast as it started to in 2012, they probably would have went through with it, but in the end, honestly, the main game was just performing too well. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you remember this at all, because I've only ever really seen it in my research for like the original Tanki history video I made. But yeah, if you guys like this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and watch my complete history of Tanki Online video if you haven't already. Take care, everybody.